Hello students, how are you? Good to see you again. Greetings of the day to all of you from my side. So today we will further discuss the already started topic on of the first chapter, that is on unit operations. So this is lecture number 3. So in the last lecture we have started unit operations and we have covered these topics like introduction, definition of unit operations we have covered, then importance of unit operations we have covered, then examples of unit operations, applications of unit operations, then transport phenomena. So these are the topics we have covered in the last lecture. So today we will discuss these broad topics related to the unit operations. First of all, we will cover the classification of equipment. Then we will discuss what is plate column, then what is packed column, then distillation, then absorption, then adsorption. So these are the unit operations we are going to cover a bit detail. Although in brief, we have covered all the unit operations in the last lecture also, but these are the unit operations like distillation, absorption, adsorption, liquid extraction and drying. So these are the unit operations we are going to cover in detail in this lecture. So first of all, the classification of equipments. So our very first topic of today's lecture. Unit operations, as you all know, is based upon the science, some fundamental principles. Then experience also plays an important role whenever, especially whenever we want to optimize the unit operations. Then each process is developed systematically from laboratory scale to pilot scale, then from pilot scale to the industrial scale. So whenever you want to develop any unit operation, first of all, we carry out the experiments on lab scale. Then in from lab scale it is scaled up, that is known as scaling. What is pilot scale? Pilot scale, you can say it is a exact replica of a industrial scale. From laboratory scale it is upgraded to the pilot scale, then from pilot scale it is upgraded to the industrial scale. So each process is evaluated in terms of effectivity, efficiency, validity, safety, economy. So these are the five basic, you can say, the parameters which are important or which are to be considered for the evaluation of any process. So first of all, the effectivity or the effectiveness, it refers to the quality of what is to be actually accomplished, right? Next is the efficiency. It means accomplishing the task with the minimum wastage of material, time and money. So in you can say the technical terms, the efficiency is the ratio of output divided by input. So the efficiency can be increased by increasing the output for same input, or for same output you have to decrease the input, right? So in the management terms, these two terms, effectiveness or the efficiency, are you can say defined by this single line, that efficiency is doing the things right, while effectiveness is doing right things, right? Next is the validity. Validity or the validation is defined as the procedure that demonstrates the ability of consistently producing the product with established specifications under ideal conditions. Next is the safety. Safety refers to the protection of products, personnel, factory. So it relates to the prevention of accidents, and the protection from fire constitute important various kinds of fire. So it relates to the safety of the personnel. So sufficient care should be exercised so that the human factor is removed from the hazards by making protection a permanent feature or an automatic feature for the whole process. Next is the economy. Economy refers to the production of protection of factory from financial problems. So industrial activity initially involves the conversion of raw materials into the value added products, right? The various steps are initiated for optimization of parameters of an operation, and or you can say the process, so that uh, so that you can produce the product at the minimum cost, right? So that is very much important, so which is beneficial to the factory or as well as the customers. Next is each process uses one or number of equipments, right? So number of equipments are required to complete any unit operation. So theory and practice must combine to yield designs for the equipment that can be fabricated, assembled, operated or maintained. So equipments used can be divided into two classes: proprietary equipment and non-proprietary equipment. So first of all, proprietary equipment. So this is a type of equipment which is designed and manufactured by special firms. For example, pumps, compressors, filters, centrifuges, etc. While non-proprietary equipments, so this is a type of equipment which is designed by special or one-off items for a particular process. So these equipments are dependent upon the particular kind of, the design of these equipment depend upon the particular kind of operation or particular kind of you can say input and output. So that's why these type of equipments are generally designed depending upon what is to be accomplished, what are the specifications of the products you want, right? Next is the plate column. This is about the classification of equipments. Now we will discuss the plate columns. So the plate column and pad column are widely used for conducting the different types of unit operations. So first of all, plate column. A plate column is a chemical equipment used to carry out unit operations where it is necessary to transfer mass between a liquid phase or a gas phase. So it is basically a gas liquid contactor. Individuality of this gas liquid contactor is that the gas comes in contact with the liquid through different stages. So plate towers consist of vertical column with flowing liquid from top to bottom, and inside the column there are trays or the plates, liquid to flow back and forth horizontally while vapor bubbles up through holes in the trays. So purpose of these trays is to increase the amount of contact area between the liquid and the vapor phases. So this is the diagram, or you can say the schematic diagram for a plate column which is used in the industry. So you can say there are a number of trays are there, and so this plate column represent a, you can say, unit operation which is specifically unit operation, that is distillation is represented by this plate column. So in the distillation column, the feed is introduced more or less centrally into the plate column. So you can say in this case there are 6 different trays are there, and the section above the point of introduction of feed is known as rectification section, and the section below the point of introduction of feed is known as stripping section. So the gas phase leaving the top is leaving from the top, and it is converted into back into the liquid phase by use of condenser, which is not shown in this here because that is not a part of this packed column. And that liquid phase is again introduced from the top, that is just to increase the purity of the product, and from the bottom the liquid is subjected to, or you can say introduced into, a reboiler where the liquid is again partially you can say vaporized, and that liquid gas mixture is introduced. The line is also shown, that from reboiler is shown at the bottom of this diagram. So there are the number of trays is dependent upon the number of equilibrium stages, that we will discuss in the end of this at the later part of this presentation also. The vapor phase enters to the bottom of the column and exits to the top. The applications of the plate column are in distillation, gas liquid absorption, then liquid extraction. So next are the advantages. So advantages of plate column are better distribution. It can handle high liquid flow rates. Then disadvantages are higher pressure drop than packed columns. Then foaming can occur due to the induced agitation. So this is a disadvantage of this packed column. So this is about the packed column in brief. Next we are going to discuss the packed column. So packed column, a packed bed column consists of a hollow tube or a pipe or other vessel that is filled with a packing material. So packing have a special configuration that allow the passage of vapor and liquid. It provides sufficient surface area for the vapor liquid contact. It permit efficient mass transfer. So here is a schematic diagram for packed column. You can say, so again here also there are two sections. Each section is filled with some sort of packing, and the liquid is introduced from the top and gas is introduced from the bottom, and there is a grid or a support is provided for the packing in each section. So two sections are there for packing in this particular diagram. Next is liquid flows downward through packing and vapor flows upward through the packing. Packed bed column largely employed for absorption, desorption, rectification and direct heat transfer. So advantages of packed column: it is cost efficient. Its cost is quite less as compared to plate column. Then lower pressure drop is there. Good for thermally sensitive liquids. So here are some of the disadvantages. Packing can break during installation. So some packings are really fragile, especially of ceramic or plastic. Then the maldistribution of liquid. So distribution of liquid is not problem. It is problematic in this particular type of column. So this is about the packed column. Now we are going to discuss some unit operations which are widely used in the chemical processing industry, or in the, you can say, polymer manufacturing industry also. First of all, distillation. Distillation is a process of separating the components of the substances from a liquid mixture by using selective boiling and condensation. So it is a purification method for liquids, widely used for this purification of liquids. Next is it can separate the components of a mixture if they have significantly different boiling point. So next is the binary solution. So this term is widely used when we study the distillation, binary solution. So what is binary solution? Binary solution is a mixture of two liquids that are completely miscible with one another. So boiling point of a binary solution depends upon the solution composition, and there can be three cases. So boiling point of the solutions of all composition lie between the boiling points of the pure liquids. This is the first case, it lies between the two. Second is the boiling points of the solution of any composition lie above the boiling points of pure liquids. So the first is the case for ideal solution. Second is for non-ideal solutions, when the solution deviate from ideality. And third is the boiling points of the solution of some compositions lie below the boiling points of pure liquids. This is another case for non-ideal solutions. So another term which is widely used in the distillation, bubble point. Bubble point is a temperature at which the binary solution starts to boil, right? So this is the first point at you can say appearance of first bubble when you supply the heat to a solution. Next is the dew point, is the temperature at which the saturated vapor starts to condense. For a single component, bubble point and a dew point are same and are referred to as a boiling point. This is very important. So this boiling point is the term which is used for a single component liquid. For a binary liquid which is a mixture of two, the terms bubble point and dew point are used. So here is a, you can say, vapor liquid equilibrium which is shown for a ideal binary solution. So as you start supplying heat, right, for a solution having a composition somewhere at point A, as you heat up, right, so the first bubble is going to appear at point B. So the point B is known as bubble point, and its composition is represented, you can calculate, this is the x1 is the mole fraction composition for referring corresponding to point B. As you proceed, um, as you go on supplying the heat to the binary solution at A, what will happen? The solution becomes leaner and leaner in more volatile component, and it shifts from B towards D, means the mole fraction concentration of more volatile component goes on decreasing as you supply heat to the binary solution, right? And the last and the equilibrium vapor composition of the last, you can say, the bubble that appears at D is point E, right? So this is the, you can say, mole fraction versus temperature diagram for an ideal binary solution. Next is some important terms related to the distillation is volatility. It describes how easily a substance will vaporize, right? The substance should have a measurable vapor pressure. Next is reality volatility. So it is a measure of comparing the vapor pressures of the components in a liquid mixture. It is widely used in designing large industrial distillation processes. Volatility of component I is measured as a partial pressure of component I divided by the mole fraction of component I in the liquid. So for a binary solution of A and B, therefore volatility of A is PA divided by XA. PA is the partial pressure of component A. Similarly, for volatility for B is PB upon XB. So reality volatility is the ratio of the volatility of A. MVC means more volatile component over the volatility of less volatile component. So reality volatility is the ratio of the volatility of A over the volatility of B. So MVC divided by LVC. So this is a relation which is used to calculate the reality volatility of binary solution. So when the reality volatility is 1, though no separation is possible, it has to be greater than 1. So for a component A and a component, means if when it comes out to be 1, it means both component A and B are equally volatile. So the basic principle of distillation is the differential distribution of the two components in the liquid and the vapor phase. So you are having more volatile component present in more quantity in the vapor phase. So this is the principle. So if both the components are having equal volatility, you hardly find any separation. So they will vaporize together when heated, right? So larger the value of relative volatility above 1, so easier is the separation. So this is a diagram showing equilibrium distribution curve for a particular binary solution. So this board curve is essential for the separation by distillation to be possible. So larger is the distance of this curve, equilibrium distribution curve. So this is the equilibrium distribution curve. So greater is the distance between, and this is a 45 degree diagonal line. So larger is the distance between this 45 degree diagonal line and this equilibrium distribution curve, easier is the separation by distillation. So this is a very important point to whenever we are going to decide the feasibility by distillation process, right? Next is the batch distillation. So in batch distillation, the distillation is carried out in batches. So mixture is distilled to separate into the components, and it is employed for producing biochemical, biomedical and pharmaceutical products. And production amounts are small and have high purity. Next is the continuous distillation. So in the continuous distillation, it is a continuous process. Heat of the rising vapor causes the liquid to vaporize again, and it is used where the large quantities of liquids to be distilled. So it is largely used in the petroleum refining, petrochemical production, hydrocarbon solvent production, etc. So here is a diagram for a continuous distillation process. So here is a tray column, right, which is represented in this diagram. And so this is a complete diagram. When we have discussed the plate column, this condenser and the reboiler is not shown there, right? So this is a complete diagram. So feed is introduced centrally, and whenever you reboil, or when you reboil a particular binary solution in a liquid, it converts the liquid into a vapor, and vapor contains more percentage of more volatile component. So in the end, in the top product, you will get more of more volatile component, less of less volatile component, while in the bottom you are having more of less volatile component and less of more volatile component. So this is about the distillation. So next is absorption. So absorption, or the gas absorption, is a unit operation used in the chemical industries to separate gases by washing or scrubbing a gas mixture with a suitable liquid. So absorbed substance is washed out by a solvent, which is often recovered by subsequent stripping and desorption, or gas, sometimes it is known as gas desorption. So atoms or molecules or ions enter into the bulk phase, that is the liquid phase. That's why the absorption is known as a bulk phenomena. So here the solute is a component which is to be removed from entering stream. Solvent is a liquid applied to remove a solute from a gas stream. So most commonly used for the separation, it is the most commonly used separation technique for gas cleaning purpose, and for the removal of gases like hydrogen sulfide, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide and ammonia. And this operation involves transfer of solute gases into the liquid solvents, and the solvent is selected offers the specific or the selectivity for the gases to be recovered. So solvent is selected in such a way that a particular component of a gaseous mixture is preferentially absorbed in that solvent. So it is selected in such a manner, and it brings about the required separation. So it is generally practiced in a packed towers at industrial scale. So solvent poured into the top of the tower and trickles down through packing, and gas is pumped into the bottom of the tower and flows upward and moving counter currently, right, upward direction. So contact between the gas liquid leads to gas absorption. So analysis of packed tower involves the use of both mass transfer and the fluid mechanics concept. So both are the transport phenomena we have discussed in the last lecture are quite useful whenever we want to analyze a particular packed tower for this unit operation. So this is about the absorption. Next is the adsorption. Adsorption is a unit operation in which a pure gas or a gas mixture is contacted with a solid surface. So some of the gas molecules are concentrated at the surface due to the gas solid attractive forces. So adsorption is a surface phenomena. So it is a surface phenomena because in this case there is a higher concentration of molecules on the surface than in the bulk, while the absorption unit operation is a bulk phenomena. So in absorption there is a higher concentration of molecules in the bulk of the liquid, not at the surface. So that is an important difference between the adsorption and the absorption. So adsorbate, what is adsorbate? Adsorbate is a substance whose molecules get adsorbed at the surface. Right? Next is the adsorbent. So substrate on whose surface the adsorption takes place is known as adsorbent. So this distinction must be known to you. What is the difference between the adsorbate and the adsorbent? Right? That is similar to the solute solvent classification in absorption. So adsorbate is analogous to solute and adsorbent is analogous to solvent. So if we try to draw up an analogy between absorption and adsorption. So next is, it is used effectively in the separation and purification of many gas and liquid mixtures in the chemical, petrochemical, biochemical and environmental industries. So it is much cheaper and easier option than the distillation, absorption and extraction, because that's why it is widely used in the industry, because it is quite economical as compared to the distillation, absorption and extraction. So that's why whenever separation by adsorption is possible or feasible, we always try to resort to adsorption. So some of the commonly used adsorbents are silica gel, activated carbon, carbon molecular sheave, charcoal, zeolites, polymer and resins, right? Then biosorbents. So these are the adsorbents which are widely used in the industry. So some of the key properties of the adsorbents that has to be considered while selecting an adsorbent. So one is the capacity. So the adsorbent which is having higher capacity to absorb a particular component is always better as compared to the other one. Next is selectivity. So the adsorbent selected must be selectively absorb a particular component that is to be separated. Next is regenerability. So this is quite important when the adsorbent is costlier, right? So you have to regenerate it. So the ease of regeneration is quite important in that case. So you have to select that particular adsorbent which can be easily regenerated. Next is kinetics. So kinetics means rate of adsorption. So if there are two adsorbents A and B which offers higher rate of adsorption, right? So that is going to be preferred, right? Next is compatibility. It's again an important factor. So that adsorbent must be compatible with the other components, right? The components of the gaseous mixture from which the separation is to be brought about. Then last but not the least, cost. So cost is again a very important factor whenever you decide a particular adsorbent. So if all other above parameters are met, so you have to make a choice of a particular adsorbent in terms of cost. So the adsorbent which is cheaper is selected as compared to the other one if all other parameters are similar. Next is these are the different methods which are used for regeneration of adsorbent. It is especially, I have told you earlier also, it is especially useful so whenever the adsorbent is costlier. So these are the different you can say methods which are used for regeneration of adsorbents. Thermal swing, so by changing the temperature you are going to regenerate. Pressure swing, by changing the pressure you are going to regenerate the adsorbent. Next is gas stripping, you can also use by using another gas. You can strip the adsorbent from the gas which is already adsorbed on it. Next is steam stripping, sometimes also used. Passing the steam through the adsorbent is used to free the component which is adsorbed on a particular adsorbent. Next is major applications of adsorption are gas bulk separation, gas purifications, liquid bulk separations, liquid purifications, recovering and controlling the emissions of volatile organic carbons or volatile organic compounds. So these are the some of the applications where the adsorption unit operation is widely used. So this is about the adsorption. Next unit operation we are going to study is liquid extraction. So what is liquid extraction? So it is a process in which one or more components are separated selectively from a liquid mixture, right? The feed is known as a phase 1 and by means of an immiscible liquid, the solvent, the phase 2, right? So in most of the mass transfer operations, so this is basically a mass transfer operation. So there are two immiscible phases are used. So you have to select a liquid in extraction in such a manner it must be immiscible with the liquid mixture from which the separation is to be brought about. So there are two terms that are associated with liquid extraction, that are extract and raffinate. Extract, what is extract? It is the solvent rich phase is known as extract. So solvent that is enriched in solute is called extract, and the feed rich phase you can say it is known as the raffinate, or you can say the feed solution from which the solute is depleted or removed is known as raffinate. So the important properties of a good solvent is high solvent power or capacity, means it has higher ability to recover a solvent from the feed. Next is high selectivity for the desired component, means it should preferentially dissolve the solute which is to be separated. Next is high thermal and chemical stability, because it should be chemically inert with the other components. Next is it should be thermally stable also. Next is it should have low melting point. Next is relatively inexpensive. It's again a important parameter for the overall economy of the process. Next is it should be non-toxic and non-corrosive. So toxicity is considered from the point of view of the personnel which are working in that area where this unit operation is carried out. And next it is non-corrosive, means it is non-detrimental to the material of construction used in the equipment in which this liquid extraction unit operation is carried out. Next is it should have low viscosity and low interfacial tension. Next is the major applications, the recovery of aromatics from the liquid hydrocarbon. Next is separation of butadiene from C4 hydrocarbons. It is another application. Next is extraction of caprolactam. So caprolactam, we will it is, this particular compound is very well known to you. So caprolactam is a monomer. It is used for making the nylon 6 or making polyamide, that is nylon 6. It is very well used in the making the nylon polymer. Next is separation of homogeneous aqueous azeotrophs. Next is extraction of acetic acid. So it is another important application for liquid extraction. It is used in the production of vinegar, means acetic acid. Next is removal of phenolic compounds from wastewater. So this is about the liquid extraction. So next unit operation we are going to study is the drying, which is quite important from, you can say, the polymer processing point of view also. So drying is a unit operation consisting of removal of water or another solvent by evaporation from a solid, semi-solid or liquid. So here are the some terms which must be known to you. Equilibrium moisture content. So it is the moisture content at which the material is neither gaining or nor losing moisture when surrounded by air, right? So it is the equilibrium when the you can say the solid is in a state of neither gaining or losing the moisture, when it is come in contact with the air having particular RH, relative humidity. Value of EMC, equilibrium moisture content, depends on the nature of the material and the relative humidity and temperature of air. So these two terms are very important. It must be considered while calculating the value of EMC. What is the RH and the temperature of air? So these two factors, EMC is always you can say described, or you can say the specified at a what is the RH and the temperature of air. So if this RH and temperature of the air is changed, this EMC is also going to be changed. Next is free moisture content. So this is a liquid in excess of equilibrium moisture content for the specific temperature and humidity conditions of the dryer, right? So anything excess of EMC is that can be removed. So we artificially, you can say, create a conditions inside a dryer in such a manner that the equilibrium, you can say, we are lowering down the equilibrium moisture content. So anything higher than equilibrium moisture content is definitely removed. So it represents the liquid content removable at a given temperature and humidity. Next is the bound moisture. This is the moisture of the substance which exerts as equilibrium vapor pressure less than that of the pure liquid at the same time. That's very important. That is the bound moisture. So bound moisture is the moisture which exerts the equilibrium vapor pressure less than that of the pure liquid at the same temperature. So this you can say cannot be removed, bound moisture. Unbound moisture, it is a moisture of a substance which exerts a equilibrium vapor pressure equal to that of the pure liquid at the same temperature. Next, most of the dryers are classified as direct dryers, where hot air is used to supply the heat to evaporate water and other solvents from the product. So another important dryer category includes vacuum dryers that involves use of reduced pressure. Then you can say atmospheric, yes, you can say that there is a creation of vacuum in this. That's why it bears the name vacuum dryer, to extract the moisture out of the product. So the processing industries which uses the drying equipment to eliminate the moisture during a product processing include food, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, plastics, timber and paper. So plastics is another industry. So where this prior to the polymer processing, right, there is a need to carry out the drying. So you are having a watermarks or water streaks are there if the moisture is above the certain level. So you have to reduce the moisture in that case to, you can say, overcome that defect. So these are the topics that we have covered in the today's lecture: the classification of equipments, packed column, and some unit operations which are widely used in the chemical processing industry and in the polymer manufacturing industry and the plastic processing industry, like distillation, adsorption, liquid extraction and drying. So these are the operations we have covered in a bit detail in this particular lecture. Now let's try some of the questions. So this is just to add to your knowledge. So first question is, which of the following equipment belongs to a category of proprietary equipment? First is distillation column, second choice is compressor, third is plug flow reactor, fourth one is the batch reactor. So of course in this particular case the right answer is the B, compressor, because all other, the design of distillation column, plug flow reactor and batch reactor depends upon the, what are the, you can say, the specifications of the product, what are the inlet conditions. Depending upon that we are going to design these three equipment: distillation column, plug flow reactor and batch reactor. So right answer is compressor. Right. So next question is, which of the following is an example of non-proprietary equipment? Pump, shell and tube, heat exchanger, plate and frame, filter press, centrifuge. Right. So which of them is a non-proprietary? Non-proprietary means which depends upon inlet and outlet conditions. So again, the pump is a, you can say, is a standard equipment. Then plate and frame, filter press and centrifuge is also a standard equipment. So while shell and tube, heat exchanger design depends upon the conditions of use. So in this particular case the right answer is shell and tube heat exchanger. Next question is, the process of separating the components of the substances from a liquid mixture by using a selective boiling and condensation is called extraction, absorption, distillation and adsorption. So these are the four unit operations which involves selective boiling and condensation. So right answer is C, the distillation. Right. So next question is, the temperature at which the binary solution starts to boil is called dew point, triple point, boiling point and bubble point. So in this case also the term which is specifically related to the binary solution is the bubble point. So right answer is, so bubble point specifically when this is a point where you get a first vapor when you heat a binary solution. So right answer is the bubble point. Next question is, the term used to describe a substance whose molecules get adsorbed at the surface is called adsorbent, adsorbate, extract or raffinate. So in this case the right answer is the adsorbate, right, whose molecules get adsorbed at the surface. So on whose surface the adsorption is carried out, that is the adsorbent. And extract and raffinate, you know, these are the terms related to the extraction, liquid extraction. So this is all about today's lecture. So if you are having any questions and doubts, you can raise your queries on my WhatsApp number or email. So thank you for this lecture. Next time we will start with the unit processes.